Welcome. This is all minus one quick shots. Folks, you may have seen, you may have heard, although the news is not talking about it much, that we bombed Syria last night over Iranian militia or some nonsense. I am not sure about the whole ordeal because honestly, I've just not looked that deeply into it. It's not being ultra covered. On the other hand, Mr. Potato Head switching from Mr. to just Potato Head is. What else have I seen out there so far? Well, I've seen Senator Rand Paul's questioning of our new transgender cabinet member or secretary or whatever in the world that is that's there. Man, what's going on is the real question. What is going on? Well, I kind of made a quick video last night. This is sort of business as usual. Now, I could be wrong. I could be very wrong in that this might have been needed as some sort of strategic strike. But given that Biden has been in office just over a month, I just believe it's, typical globalist nonsense. And why is that? Well, Syria has a pipeline and an issue with Russia. Russia has energy independence potentially, and there's a lot of energy in the region, of course. And the reality is that the globalists do not want to allow Russia to be powerful. They want China to be powerful. And you might find this interesting because in the news, there is a lot of conflict constantly between the U.S. and Russia or the U.S. and China. But really, we back China. Look at the Republicrats, right? The rhinos and the dinos. Look at the establishment. They're very pro-China. It's one of the reasons why, Trump was not received so well, to put it mildly, right? Trump was not received well because he wasn't a globalist in the plans of the globalists. So the Chinese have a 100-year plan that they believe has come to fruition and in this year, or last year, something around there with the coup. And they believe, as many other people do, that this is the great Chinese century. The 21st century is theirs. They will become the world leader. They are seeking to have 30% of the world's GDP. They own the majority of the major banks in the world. We see now that the corporations are largely marketing to them. We see that the NBA markets to them. We know that Gina Carano was kicked out of Disney for innocuous statements that are completely true, yet the company, the corporation of Disney, thanked the Chinese government while they filmed their movie Milan. I believe it was Milan, if I'm not mistaken. And at the same time, the CCP had locked up Uyghurs in concentration camps, sterilized them, harvested their organs, brainwashed them, re-educated them, whatever else. And just not cool stuff. Let's not forget about their actions in Tibet over the years and Hong Kong here recently. Let us not forget the ongoing tensions between them and Taiwan, where they believe that that's their nation, that's their country, and the Taiwanese are like, nope, no, we're something different. We are seeing the military buildup of China in the South China Sea. We are seeing basically a lot of stuff with them. We saw with the coup that they owned a lot of hospital beds in Australia, and they were trying to charge exorbitant amounts of money for the use of those beds to the Australian government. This is why you don't rely on your neighbors who would abuse you, folks. You got to be self-sufficient, and then only once you are self-sufficient to at least some degree, then you can go and, ask your neighbor for extra help. You can provide a give and take. And basically, China's been a bunch of take for the last 40, 50 years. This all started by opening up economic markets. So how does this all go back to what's going on in Syria? Well, the Middle East needs to be under control, according to the globalist, and also destabilized, according to the globalists. See, that destabilization justifies the use of military force and power to counter terrorist buildups. Things like the Patriot Act, where the United States government can spy on its own citizens because of foreign actors. This is what is going on. The buildup in Syria, or the invasion of troops, or prior the lying of how many troops were there to the former president, all has to go back again to these globalist plans. And what is that? Well, we need to bolster up China, and the Middle East is in close relation to Russia, and having allies there isn't good for the globalists per se. Now, is Russia part of this globalist plan? Probably. But they also seem to be kind of independent on their own. I don't know. I'm not sitting here trying to cheer for Putin or back Russia or anything like that. I just see a nation that's been trying to recover its economy for the last, 30 years, and is now a middle income nation. And I see a nation at the same time that has less GDP than Texas or New York State or California or many of the states of the United States, far less than Germany. Yet when Donald Trump tried to pull out troops from Germany, and I mean a minuscule amount, a few hundred, I think it was 700 troops of the few thousand still left there, and he was just going to redeploy them to other parts in Europe, and he basically did that as a play to get Germany to pay its NATO bill. But yeah, there were decries of that, and it's like the German military and German economy is way stronger than Russia's. Not to mention the allies, that is everyone in NATO, are on their side. 700 troops is not going to make a difference, but this is how the media gaslights everybody. So again, back to the point of Syria. This is just, again, business as usual. Of course, it's some sort of strike against Iran. We don't like Iran because Iran is independent. They're unpredictable, according to the globalists. I believe they have their own centralized bank, not involved with the rest of the world banks. Now, the last time something like that was a big deal was Libya. They were talking about creating a gold standard, Gaddafi was, and guess what happened? The nation was destroyed, and now there are open slave markets in Libya, where you can go down and buy a man for $400 US. Now, perhaps with inflation, it's a little bit more. But it's just not good. So again, what is going on? Well, this is probably having more to do with us pinning Russia as the bad guy, worrying about Iran as the bad guy, stopping their natural global independence for fossil fuels. There's also, lastly, on all of this, there is a tie-in to the climate agenda. Now, I don't believe that these folks really do believe that the Earth is going to wither up and die in the next couple of years, in the next century, in the next 50 years, whatever it may be. I think that this is about power and control, and they know that energy independence is a means to basically independent sovereign nations, and they can't have that within the global hegemony. So we need to ensure that everything's strictly, tightly controlled by those who are in power. And of course, the U.S. is the military arm of the UN. It's not favorable or fashionable right now for China to do that, but we are neutering our military. We have been, of course. They are going after folks with the inauguration building up of troops in D.C. We saw that there were basically political tests for troops to see what their loyalty and affiliation was. And this is all quite sickening, folks. You don't understand, perhaps, how despotic our government is and how bad this will be by the end of the decade if it continues on this route. And unfortunately, just being a realist here, it's probably going to continue on the route because there is no sign of this slowing down on the horizon. And so as we do that, we're also allowing, transgender folks who need a lot of medical attention in, who have largely psychological issues, and I say that only because of the high rate of suicide. And it's not what the SJWs say. It's not because they're picked on or whatever. I mean, I've never met someone, and I have met plenty of trans folks. Never met someone who was trans that was a solid, very stable person. In fact, I had a friend who uh, was so, and not someone who really knew their place in the world very well. Very confused individual. Um, in any case, so you have that. You have, of course, the flagrant demoralization of the military and being more inclusive, changing gender standards, all kinds of things going on there. You have the lack of ability to get young men into the military because, well, we're just not a fit nation anymore. Meanwhile, China is complaining about this plan that came out of Japan and the U.S. and the CIA of feminizing their men, and they're going full steam against it. Eventually, our economy will crash because we are hyperinflating right now. That's going to take about a year or two to start to catch up. We are seeing, of course, with the Keystone Pipeline and other stuff very early on. Again, we're a month into this presidency. The gas prices skyrocket. And as gas prices skyrocket, other things will continue to skyrocket. And times are going to get hard, folks. And the Chinese will eventually overpower us. It will happen by the end of the decade. Their goal is 2049 for sure, 2050. Now, I will be covering this a little bit later on a longer segment, a regular segment. I will show you a few articles. I'm planning on covering this for the next week or so, just because it's so important and there's so much information out there, and this has been predicted for years, and it kind of it lets you put your finger on what is going on in the world, because these plans have been implemented. They've been going on in China for a very, very long time. The United States doesn't plan like this. Other nations don't plan like this, but we do have plans and projections from the NGOs. So I guarantee you, if you go to the Council of Foreign Relations, if you were an insider, you would see that they have very long, deep-seated plans. In fact, we know from the book, was it Tragedy and Hope, that that the Anglo-Saxon, Anglo-American alliance from the Rhodes Society is a big deal, and that is bringing America back underneath the crown. And this is conspiracy territory, but funny how they're really open about it, and funny how these things seem to work out in conjunction with the historical record as well and continue to unfold. So again, folks, think of it what you will. The Syrian bombing could just be, a strategic move that was needed. Could be. I'm thinking it's more, a minor escalation that will continue over the next 4 years of this administration. I doubt that Biden himself authorized this. It was probably something out of the Pentagon. And of course, he said, okay, whatever, because that's actually how it works, guys. The president isn't really making these decisions. You have to realize that you're dealing with figureheads. You're dealing with puppets mostly. They're not really in charge. They sort of have an agenda. They're getting that agenda from 1,000 other people, folks. This is how it actually works. And of course, Kamala Harris is going to have a lot of influence over this stuff and probably will eventually be the president within this administration. But if not, everyone's taking bets on that, of course. Biden's not going to run a second term. He said that long before he was the nominee. He's like, I'm a one-term president. I'm just going to bring unity. And what he meant by unity, because you folks out there don't know all the code words and stuff, not to talk like lefties, like there's dog whistles, but really this is what they mean, because they actually do have a form of doublespeak. This is why they talk about people on the right who are actually very transparent, generally speaking, that we have dog whistles, because they project everything onto the right. And it's as simple as this. When they say unity, they mean the one party. They mean the one party, the U.S. government party, the world government party, the global government party. And that's what they're talking about. We need to bring everyone back into that. And that's why all your CNNs and your MSNBCs and your Fox News is, I don't know. I haven't turned on Fox in a while, but Fox might be covering this a little bit, because they know that there's a little bit of an anti-war right-wing base. But again, This is about globalism, folks. This is about getting that area under control. This is about not allowing energy independence in those regions or with Russia. This isn't because Russia's a threat. It's because we don't want Russia to be a player. I mean, Russia's sort of a player because its size, but guys, it's really not economically as stable and as powerful as people think. China is the player. China owns land all over the world. China has banks all over the world. China owns hospital beds. They manufacture almost everything in the world. China is the new global power. It just hasn't become official yet, and it will be eventually when we switch over to their currency. Now, I might be wrong about that. Maybe there will be a new currency, a new global currency. Maybe it'll be the new US dollar of some sort. Maybe it'll be the Amero, as the plans were back in the early 2000s. Who knows? But that's all I pretty much have, guys. I hope maybe that sheds some insight. Go look into it. Again, these are just observations that I'm making based on the patterns I've seen over the years. And this has been a buildup of a long time as well, right? And of course, Syria is right there over near Iraq and Iran and all that good stuff. So look forward to that too. I don't think that the Iranian peninsula is going to ever be taken, but we might bomb the crap out of it. And we don't like that we lost power there and control there back in the 70s. We really don't like that. That is the globalists, not me personally. I want to leave those folks alone because they are people and they have a right to their own manifest destiny. They have a right to dictate how they live in their own country. In any case, guys, this has been All Minus One Quick Shots, and I wish you all well.